Imagine living in a country where the leader declares himself the father of all and builds golden statues of himself. Welcome to Turkmenistan, one of the most bizarre and authoritarian countries in the world. The restrictions here are so absurd that you might think I'm talking about North Korea. But no, today you are discovering the most mysterious country in the world. Public kissing is forbidden. There is control over what people can wear. Black cars are banned, and even foreign travel is heavily restricted. But that's not all. Women are subjected to strict control over their appearance, with tight clothing and flashy makeup being banned. Want to learn more? Then prepare yourself to discover the most shocking and darkest secrets of this enigmatic country. Before we start the video, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. It's free, and it encourages me to keep bringing more content for you. Turkmenistan is a country in Central Asia, bordered by Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, and Iran. It lies in a desert region with extremely hot summers and cold winters. The country's capital is Ashgabat, founded in 1881 as a fortress by the Russians. The city has significantly developed over the years, especially after the country's independence in 1991. The city holds the world record for the most buildings clad in white marble, earning it the nickname White City. Turkmenistan is an authoritarian country led by Serdar Berdimuhamedov, the son of former President Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov. The regime is characterized by strong state control over the media, the internet, and social life. The country ranks last on the Democracy Index and is considered the most repressive country in the world. Although mobile internet has brought about some changes, internet freedom is far from a reality. The government maintains strict control over the internet, monitors all online activities, and blocks most social networks. Those who break the rules are imprisoned or disappear. The capital shows empty streets and avenues, with a constant climate of fear of repression and state control, creating an atmosphere of loneliness among the citizens, which has earned the city the nickname City of the Dead. A recent incident involved a group of European tourists visiting Turkmenistan. They took photos in an area that seemed ordinary to them, with no signs or warnings that photography was prohibited. However, the Turkmen authorities considered the area sensitive. Suddenly, the tourists found themselves surrounded by armed police and were taken in for questioning. The local authorities accused them of espionage, a serious charge in Turkmenistan with severe consequences. Without proper legal support and with limited communication to the outside, the tourists were held for several weeks, during which they suffered under precarious detention conditions and rigorous interrogations. News of the tourists' detention quickly spread, sparking a wave of outrage and concern among European governments and human rights organizations. Intense diplomatic pressure was applied on the Turkmen government to ensure the tourists' release. Finally, after several weeks of negotiations and international pressure, the tourists were freed and allowed to return to their home countries. This incident is not an isolated case, but an example of the unpredictable and oppressive nature of the regime in Turkmenistan. The government rigorously controls freedom of speech and movement, and any small misstep can have severe consequences. Turkmenistan competes with North Korea for the title of the country with the fewest individual freedoms and the most tyrannical laws. In communist regimes, the cult of personality is common, portraying political leaders as nearly divine figures. In both North Korea and Turkmenistan, this practice is extreme, with leaders being treated like gods or saviors in school textbooks, facilitating the manipulation of society. After the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, Turkmenistan gained independence, but has only had 3 presidents, or rather, 3 dictators. There seems to be a competition between them for who commits the greatest absurdities. The first president was Sapa Murat Niyazov, who led the country from 1985 to 2006. He elevated the cult of personality to an unprecedented level, declaring himself president for life and passing bizarre laws. One remarkable example was the publication of the book Ruhnama, which was mandatory reading in schools and universities and was necessary to obtain a driver's license and hold public office. He also changed the calendar, naming months after himself, his mother, and his book. Additionally, he banned ballet, opera, circuses, dogs, and even smoking in public. During his presidency, taxes and government revenues were used to beautify the capital and maintain the president's cult of personality, with little benefit to the population. After Niyazov's death in 2006, one of his vice presidents, Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov, took over the presidency and maintained the cult of personality, though to a lesser extent. He repealed some of the most bizarre laws of the former president, such as the requirement to study the Ruhnama. His initial actions seemed to indicate a path toward reform, but that light of openness quickly faded. The current president merely replaced the old cult of personality with a new one, his own. His image is omnipresent throughout the country. According to local sources, while the people struggled with hunger, the president indulged in hobbies such as fishing, knife throwing, car design, and even DJing at parties. This stark contrast between the leader's opulence and the people's poverty reveals the true nature of Serdar Berdimuhamedov's authoritarian regime, which has closed hospitals outside the capital and forced the sick to travel long distances for medical care. The president strongly believed that the color white brings good luck. In 2014, he demanded that all government officials' cars be replaced with white Mercedes-Benzes. The following year, he banned the import of black cars, and in 2018, he officially declared white as the color for all vehicles in the country. As a result, all non-white cars in the capital, Ashgabat, were confiscated, and their owners were fined for disobeying the decree. The population was forced to paint their cars white, or at least silver. In 2018, the year when white was made official for all vehicles, an even more controversial measure was taken: a ban on women obtaining driver's licenses or operating any vehicle. This measure garnered significant international attention and was widely viewed as a setback for women's rights. The international community, including human rights organizations, condemned the government's decision as discriminatory and a violation of women's basic rights. In 2022, Serdar Berdimuhamedov, the son of the former president, took over the presidency. Turkmenistan does not hold free elections, and the current leader Serdar achieved election results near 100%, reminiscent of North Korea's system. The situation with press freedom is even more critical, surpassing that of North Korea. Journalists are banned at the borders, and the number of visas granted to tourists is almost zero. Those who do obtain a visa are monitored daily, and their stay is limited to the capital. Now you'll be shocked to learn the darkest and most secret facts that the media hides. Prostitution is a hidden reality in Turkmenistan. There are reports that women, often young women, are trafficked to other countries, particularly the Middle East and Russia, where they are forced to work in the sex industry. The government imposes strict rules on women's personal hygiene. Some women report undergoing invasive medical exams to prove their virginity before marriage, and they are often forced to marry older men or men chosen by their parents, often without their consent. There are reports of same-sex couples being persecuted and sentenced to forced therapy or imprisonment. Men are forbidden from growing long hair or beards to maintain an appropriate appearance according to state norms. Niyazov's government introduced several bizarre bans, including banning public kissing, ballet, and opera. Men were also prohibited from replacing teeth with gold or wearing neckties, and dogs were banned from the capital because the president didn't like their smell. The international community views the country as the most restrictive and bizarre in the world. Despite the immense wealth of the country, thanks to its gas reserves, a large part of the population lives in poverty. Turkmenistan is one of the largest gas exporters in the world, ranking fourth behind Russia, Iran, and Qatar. However, the population hardly benefits from this wealth. Much of the revenue flows into state projects and the beautification of the capital, while in rural areas, living standards remain low. The government denies access to accurate economic and social data, obscuring the true conditions in the country. The economic situation has worsened due to the COVID-19 pandemic, with supply chain disruptions and a decline in gas demand. Turkmenistan stubbornly denies the existence of COVID-19 cases in the country, despite international reports and evidence to the contrary. The government allegedly implemented all measures to combat the pandemic without acknowledging the virus's existence. Access to accurate and reliable information remains difficult, and the international community has repeatedly condemned the lack of transparency and human rights violations in Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan's cultural roots and traditions have endured through centuries of change, and despite the current political climate, its people maintain their customs and heritage. The country's natural landscapes, including the Karakum Desert and the Darvaza gas crater, known as the Gate to Hell, are fascinating natural phenomena that attract adventure seekers and geologists from around the world. In a country where reality often seems more bizarre than fiction, people live under constant surveillance and control. Yet, amidst this darkness, there are stories of resistance and hope, of people who, despite everything, refuse to give up on their dreams and aspirations. Turkmenistan remains a land full of contradictions and mysteries, hoping for a better future where freedom and justice prevail.